Hi there, folks, and greetings from St. Petersburg, Florida, the home of the American League champion, Tampa Bay Rays. My name is Daron Sutton, and this is the only show devoted to amateur baseball. This is Perfect Game Weekly. And if you're just finding us for the first time, understandably on television, as we take this journey forward, we are proud to consider ourselves the stewards of the sport of amateur baseball. The great journeys, the great stories, behind the scenes, learning the game at all levels for all of those that aspire to be major leaguers and all-stars someday. By the way, it does start here. This is the site of Perfect Game's 2021 National Showcase. It basically is a preview of the 2022 draft. And that's what we have on this show, a focus on the draft, but the most recently wrapped up MLB amateur draft. And in that mind, we'll be joined by Brian Zakowski, Perfect Game's great writer, great scout, with his perspective on who was selected, where they went, and why. You'll love his insights. And we have two incredible conversations. One with the number 5 overall pick, Colton Cowser. He comes out of a mid-major in college. The next one with the number 8 overall pick, Benny Montgomery out of Pennsylvania. He's a high schooler. Really excited about these chats. And then a couple of very high first-round picks invited us into their homes. We'll go behind the scenes with those stories, the great news, the reactions of seeing your life changed forever by Major League Baseball. But let's get started where we always start these shows. Here we go with the warm-up. Let's start in Major League Baseball, certainly with an amateur flair, but just follow this. This is Padres reliever Daniel Camarena, who grew up in San Diego. He was a 2010 PG All-American. He made his big league debut in June after 10 years in the minors. He was called back up last week, and then on Thursday, making his first ever appearance in front of his hometown fans, he made history, not on the mound, but at the plate. With his older brother watching, he hit a grand slam home run off of Max Scherzer. That was his first ever Major League hit. Guys, this doesn't happen very often. He's the second pitcher ever to do it. The other was the Phillies' Bill Duggleby back in April of '98. That would be 1898. Minor League Baseball, Double-A Baseball. How about Nick Plummer? On Thursday night, the Springfield Cardinals outfielder hit not 1, not 2, but 3 home runs against the Tulsa Drillers. That third one was a walk-off shot in the 10th inning. The 2015 PG preseason All-American was selected 23rd overall back in 2015. He hasn't had the easiest of roads, but at age 24, he may be putting it all together in 2021. On to the WBA 14U National Champion, Perfect Game Select Festival alum, and the very talented Ninth Nation Nationals, Connor Griffin, a 15-year-old from Florence, Mississippi, who, by the way, is 6'3", 180 pounds. He's a two-way player, up to 90 on the mound, and at the plate, he's having an even better week. In 6 games in Hoover, Alabama, he hit .570, 2 homers, the OPS, 1827. And we wrap what we promised, the MLB Draft. The first round of the MLB Draft took place on Sunday. Louisville catcher Henry Davis went number 1 overall. Vandy righty Jack Leiter went number 2, both PG alums. And check this out. Of the 29 players taken in the first round, all 29 were PG alums. 12 PG All-Americans. And if you watched all of that footage on MLB Network or ESPN, you couldn't help but notice the Perfect Game logos and footage all over all the broadcasts. And what an incredible year it was. A later draft, right around All-Star Week, and joining us as National Scouting Supervisor for Perfect Game, Brian Zakowski. Wow, you have been amazing, Brian, over the last couple of months, and crescendo, certainly all the work you did, not just on our platform, but a lot of people reaching out to you, and they got smarter because they did. I'm going to throw you right at it. What are just some of your first initial overall impressions of the draft?
Well, I think you got to start at 1-1, right? We didn't know until seemingly the pick was made that Pittsburgh was going to take Henry Davis rather than Marcelo Mayer or whoever else it was. Obviously going to save a lot of money there. You saw throughout the course of the first 2 days the players that they're going to pay with that savings, Bubba Chandler among them. I have to start there. It was not a shock, but it was a surprise just because we didn't know. But either way, I think we saw a lot of prep players taken in the first round, which is something we expected. The record amount of shortstops, high school shortstops taken, that's going to be the theme of this draft. I think that in 10 years we're going to look back and either this was an incredible draft because all those high school shortstops are good, or this was a dud because none of them came to fruition. So I think that's going to be the theme.
What was your favorite pick overall? No matter what, I don't care what round you tell me, but your favorite pick, because there's a reason to it. And number 2, your biggest surprise pick.
My favorite pick, I have to go with Brady House at 11 to the Nationals. I had him third on my board, so I think they got incredible value there. We've seen Brady House forever. Sut, you've seen him since he was 14 too. A big dude with big power who's a good athlete who can hit. Like I'm all in on that type of profile. I think that the Nationals got a really big steal there. And the most surprising pick, I would say Maddox Bruns probably to the Dodgers at the end of the draft. He was really good this spring. He's a really good talent. We saw at PG National last year. It was incredible stuff for those 2 innings. But then the inconsistency of the command and the strikes throughout the course of the rest of the summer and into the All-American game and into the fall. And I was just kind of surprised that he'd thrown that many strikes this spring to go 29th overall. But there's no questioning the arm talent or the upside. And with the Dodgers player Dev, I'm ready for that dude to win a Cy Young now.
You're a man who is based in Michigan, so I have to ask you about Jackson Jobe at 3, a very talented player, a PG All-American. Please tell us a little bit about the analysis you have of your hometown team and what they did.
Yeah, it was down. I thought that once Marcelo Mayer got to them, that was going to be the pick. But they stuck with Jobe. He was the dude on their board. Unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable sort of advanced feel, especially for a guy who was a shortstop for so long. The slider's got a chance to be an 80. It has a chance to be the elite slider in Major League Baseball. He throws mid-90s. He's athletic. The arm works. There's all the upside in the world to Jackson Jobe here. This is the one dude in the class who I think might be Verlander. I think that has that sort of upside. But taking a high school guy in the top 5 is always super inherently, historically, objectively risky. But with that being said, there's nobody that deserves the top 5 high school pick more than Jackson Jobe.
I'd like to use your expertise to speak on our 2 guests on this show, because why not? It'll be a nice preview. Going at number 5 is Colton Cowser, a mid-major guy, a guy who goes out of Sam Houston State to Baltimore. And then Benny Montgomery is also joining us, a Pennsylvania-based high schooler and outfielder, goes to the Rockies. Let's start with Colton and then talk about Montgomery. They're both coming on this show.
Yeah, Cowser obviously goes 5th to Baltimore. This was a guy who was that top 10 talent, that one of the few college bats who actually did perform in a big way this year, with so many of them having fallen off like they did. But left-handed bat, big guy with lots of projection for power. He hits the ball hard already, left-handed hitter. Plays center field. I think there's a chance he can stay there. If he gets bigger and gets into more power, maybe that moves him to right field. Either way, I think there's good defensive projection. And I think Baltimore at 5 they took the slam dunk big leaguer. I think Cowser will be a good major league player and for a long time. Benny's on the Mount Rushmore of PG showcase tool sets of all time. He's a 70 runner. He has 70 arm strength in the outfield. He can play center and has instincts to do so. He has incredible power from the right side of the plate. There were some swing concerns last summer with the big hitch in his hands as he loads, and Benny has been cognizant of those things. He made changes throughout the course of the offseason. The swing looked better. The launch was quicker this spring. And this is a guy that if he hits, him and Zach Veen in Colorado might hit 40 bombs apiece in the major leagues, and what's not exciting about that? How can I not smile when I talk about Benny Montgomery?
Brian, thank you for your insights, man. Everybody, like I said, got smarter the more they brought you on. I saw you on regional networks. Thank you so much for what you did for the draft.
Thanks for having me, so I appreciate it.
The insights of Brian Sikowski certainly are well thought out, and it's great stuff. When we come back, a conversation with Colton Cowser, mid-major guy that goes number 5 overall. It's a shocker. This is the only show devoted to amateur baseball. This is Perfect Game Weekly, presented by Rawlings.
Perfect game. On and off the field, it's a way of life. And now, that same passion, your passion, is represented in the brand new exclusive PG Gear and Clothing line. Designed with you in mind, the looks that you live in, whether during a sweat-soaked workout or a round of BP. Make your memories in perfect game gear. Thoughtful, comfortable, perfect for you. Visit shop.perfectgame.org.
Hi, I'm four-time Gold Glove winner Charles Johnson.
And that one, a powering shot, way back, Charles Johnson, a monster home run.
And you're watching PerfectGame.tv.
With the 5th pick of the 2021 MLB Draft, the Baltimore Orioles select Colton Cowser, an outfielder from Sam Houston.
And that was Sunday night when he had his life changed forever. Colton Cowser, the commissioner, says his name, and he spends time with us now. Mid-major guy goes 5. There's your headline. So when your name was called, and I know there was some behind-the-scenes negotiations and conversations, but take me into that moment. Take me with your family. Take me with those that you love. Your name is called. What's that like?
Yeah, it was really exciting. It was great to have my family and friends there, and I'm not going to say it was, it's kind of not a relief, but it's time to get to work. How about that? And I'm grateful how the process went, and I'm excited.
So for you, we know who you are, and passionate baseball fans have heard your story several times on our content, but there's a lot who are watching this show since we've grown this show who don't. So I'd love for you to be a scout. I'd love for you to be a GM and a scouting director and put down pen on paper with your words who you are as a player, some of your strengths, what you've developed over the last year. Who are you? Scout yourself up.
Yeah, I'm more of a contact type left-handed hitter. I'm going to, hit some home runs, and I'd like to think that, I have all 5 tools that are, they're continuing to develop. How about that? And so, I think it's very exciting, and, I think that just getting started.
So the top of the class of 2018 is all in pro ball, right? They all signed out of high school. You probably looked at those names when you were in that class. And, Kumar Rocker lasted and hung out with you because he went to college like you. But here you stand. You were the 411th ranked outfielder, not player, outfielder in the United States. And you go from there to here. My goodness, that's a commercial for developing in college baseball.
Yeah, I definitely think that, I had a lot to grow, coming out of high school. I had to get more mature, I had to get more professional when it came to, my body physically and mentally. And I think that that's something I was able to do at Sam Houston. And, I'm really grateful for that. The coaches and the, my teammates, they helped mold me into the player I am today. And so I think that that's what contributed to that.
Outstanding stuff. Private moment with family once all those cameras and all of us were gone. What was that kind of first private moment like, whether it was an iced tea or a cold beverage, whatever it was, and everyone was gone just around the table? What was that like?
Yeah, it was cool. My mom and dad both said, well, has it kind of hit you yet? And I was like, well, not really. We just got wrapped up here, but, they're really proud of me. I'm forever grateful for my parents as well. The amount of time they've put into my baseball career is unmatchable. And so I'm forever grateful for them as well.
I'm Daron Sutton, and I'm ranked 411th in the country amongst outfielders. I've got a mid-major that says I can come play there. Let's say I'm going to Grand Canyon. But I want to be the number 5 overall pick. What advice do you have for me?
I definitely say go in and be kind of like a sponge, absorb as much information as you can. Don't try to step on anyone's toes and just go about your work, quietly. And, that will be recognized. And when you get your opportunity, go in there and, capitalize off of it and just bring as much of a winning attitude as you can to a ball club.
Finally, rumor has it that at one point you were somehow a PG part-timer or a guy that worked at PG events. My friend, I don't know that I believe the rumors, but now you're nodding. Please tell the story. You at one time wore that PG hat as an employee.
I did. I actually got to work there a little bit this past year. I've done it ever since, I was 16 or 17. Britt Smith, who runs a lot of the South tournaments down here, he's friends with one of my old high school summer coaches, and he got me hooked up with him. And, I've done it ever since, I'll shoot Britt a text saying, hey, I'd like to work this week, and, he'll get me on.
Well, your rate just went up. So we appreciate you hanging out with us. We're going to follow you closely. You're a lot of people that people are dreaming on, my friend. So best of luck, and thanks for how many times you joined us, whether it was me and Hunter Pence or on this show. We really appreciate it.
And I was like, yes, sir. Thank y'all for having me. I think it's really cool what y'all are doing, and everyone should give it a listen.
Outstanding stuff. Truly the draft's greatest story in my mind. It's Colton Cowser. When we come back, another conversation about a young man that kind of started high on that list coming out of high school and just bounced even higher. He's out of Pennsylvania. He's Benny Montgomery, and he went number 8 overall. We'll talk with him. The new Colorado Rocky when we come back. This is Perfect Game Weekly, presented by Rawlings. Perfect Game Weekly, presented by Rawlings, continues from Tropicana Field, the site of Perfect Game's 2021 National Showcase, a preview of the 2022 Amateur Draft, the best 22s in the land. And at the very top of that heap, we find Elijah Green, and he is the focus of our Yeti Built for the Wild travel ball update. He's been crushing it on his way to this event. He dominated at PG National Elite Championships in Hoover, Alabama last week. He had 350 in 7 games. The OPS was 1345. His FTB Philly Scout team finished in 3rd place, and unsurprisingly, he was named to the All-Tournament team. And from one electric outfielder to another, we're thrilled to be joined by the Colorado Rockies' first-round pick, 8th overall, a PG alum through and through from Pennsylvania, Benny Montgomery. Hey, Benny, thanks for hanging with us. We've known each other for quite a while, that 15, 16-year-old age group, and here you are now. First of all, just instant response. What was it like to be with the ones you love? What was it like to go so high? Kind of walk us through your day a couple of days ago.
Of course. Mr. Sutton, it's been crazy. It's a dream come true. I don't even know if it's sunk in yet. It's been a whirlwind of emotions, a roller coaster these past few months trying to get to this moment. I guess for the past 10 years, it might have been. So to finally have it happen, the emotions ran super high, especially from my family and friends that were there with me that night. And I couldn't be happier to be where I am, and I couldn't be happier with the result. It's a dream come true, and like I said, it still hasn't sunk in yet. It's just unbelievable.
There's a couple of perfect game moments, maybe 3 I'd like to ask you about. But the first is around Christmas time, all the way back in 2019 when we met each other really for the first time.
Yes.
And, we watched you work out. That was the main event showcase, late December 2019. We hadn't even had a pandemic yet. Do you remember that event? Do you remember the step forward you took at that event vividly in Fort Myers?
I remember that like it happened yesterday. That's one of my more fond memories, I guess, of travel ball was that event. Because I remember the 4 months leading up to that, I was looking forward to it more than ever, and I was training for it just like I would have trained for the draft. So I remember going there and knowing I was up against a ton of kids, a ton of very talented kids going to that showcase, and I wanted to beat all of them. And I guess that's kind of what I did. Those 60 I had been training forever. Even the hitting a ball off a tee with a wood bat we worked on in the basement to make sure that all my numbers were as good as they could have been.
And then next step forward was this. I mean, it wasn't here last year. It wasn't at Chase Field, but It was in Hoover. And we all of us did the best we could. I'll have a fondness always for your class of 21. You were the COVID class, and you went through a unique thing. But what do you remember about Birmingham? That was 6 months after we saw one another. Everyone was scared to fly. Everyone was anxious. What vividly do you remember about being a part? Look, I can tell folks your numbers. You threw 97. You ran a ridiculous 6.32. What do you remember about National in Hoover?
I was in Pennsylvania, seeing barely anybody, and just kind of doing private workouts to, wow, I'm back on the national stage again. It was almost like a coming out party again, that it was just, hey, wow, everybody's here, and these are the best guys. Go time. This is how the summer's going to be. Being there, tons of scouts, Hoover Stadium was packed, having to face the best competition from a pitching standpoint after I had faced nothing in the spring was tough to deal with, but I got used to it pretty quickly, and I was happy with how it went.
What did they tell you about professional baseball? You've talked to a lot of people. You're open with your communication with folks. What are you looking forward to finding out most when they tell you about it?
I'm enjoying, of course, you hear many stories from minor leaguers and major leaguers just how hard it is, the schedule, just the grind. I look forward to kind of being exposed to that because I've always considered myself to be a hard worker and I enjoy a challenge, and this is a challenge as big as I've ever had. Of course, the draft has been a big milestone for me, and that's what I've been working towards, but that's not the end goal at all. The end goal is to play at Coors Field someday and to play there for a while. So it's, of course, what they say is just, hey, it's a grind. It might not be enjoyable at times. You're going to struggle. It's part of the game. You just got to deal with it and figure it out, and I can't wait to be able to do that.
Hey, man, the amateur world and the PG world very proud of you. We're proud to send you off.
Thank you. Thank you for talking to you again. It's always good to see you.
When we return, we're going deep behind the scenes. An incredible night, certainly draft night, but how about the fact we were invited into the homes of Marcelo Meyer and Khalil Watson? See what it's like to be selected so high and to have your life changed forever. You're watching Perfect Game Weekly, presented by Rawlings.
Perfect game. On and off the field, it's a way of life. And now, that same passion, your passion, is represented in the brand new exclusive PG Gear and Clothing line. Designed with you in mind, the looks that you live in, whether during a sweat-soaked workout or a round of BP. Make your memories in perfect game gear. Thoughtful, comfortable, perfect for you. Visit shop.perfectgame.org.
Hi, I'm Tom Flash Gordon, three-time All-Star and World Series champion.
Bedlam at Fenway with the 0-2 upcoming. He struck him out! What an ending of the ball game! Gordon struck out the side of the ninth.
You're watching PerfectGame.tv.
Welcome back to Perfect Game Weekly, and one of the more fun things to cover this year with the amateur draft and seeing players having their lives changed forever was there was such a focus on prep shortstops, and they earned that focus. And we're very fortunate with Perfect Game that we've been seeing these players since they were 13 and 14 years old. Take a look at the top half of the first round when you see Marcelo Meyer out of San Diego, who goes fourth. You see at 6th, Jordan Lawler, a Texan, he goes 6th. Brady House, who everyone's been talking about, out of Georgia, he goes 11th. And the athletic Khalil Watson out of North Carolina, who probably could start anywhere on a college football field, going 16th overall. Here's the best part. Meyer and Watson in California, San Diego, and in North Carolina, just outside of Durham, opened up their homes to us. And here's what it's like to have your life touched forever.
MLB.com had Khalil Watson, the fourth best draft prospect entering tonight.
I'll say it's nothing different about today. It's just a blessed day for me and my family. You know, you gotta enjoy this day because it's the draft day. You only get one opportunity right here, so you might as well enjoy it.
With the 16th pick of the 2021 MLB draft, the Miami Marlins select Khalil Watson, a shortstop from Wake Forest High School, Wake Forest, North Carolina.
We've been talking about him a lot. Here's a look at Marcel. I love his hands. You're going to get a chance to see them, but everybody talks about the bat.
The Boston Red Sox select Marcelo Meyer.
I mean, it was crazy. You know, I was waiting there, and you know, when I was able to hear my name, you know, all the excitement just left my body, and I started crying a little bit. So it was pretty special.
You just don't know, bro.
Which is wonderful.
I'm feeling so great right now. This is unbelievable.
Please tell me you weren't just dreaming along with all of them, because whether you're me and you once were that guy for the dreamer, or you're 12 and you dream of being those athletes. That's an incredible piece, and we thank the families for that access. They didn't have to do that. That's what makes Perfect Game TV special. You want to find us, certainly, and this show, along with all sorts of other incredible exclusive content, conversations with those that are big leaguers looking back, and conversations with those that dream of being big leaguers. Live streamed games from all over the country, all over North America, player rankings and data from the most respected scouts in the business. It's Perfect Game TV on your computer, but download the app, and you can do that on your tablet, you can do that on your smartphone, you can do that on your smart TV. We want to thank Colton Cowser for joining us. What a great story he is. Benny Montgomery joined us as well, and the great scout and writer, Brian Sikowski. My name is Daron Sutton. You found us. This is the only show devoted to amateur baseball. This is Perfect Game Weekly, presented by Rockies.